Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I am Tim Wild. With me always is Josh, usually. And
always usually.
And on the subject of Cobra Kai, as often as we can get him, we have Zach here. Thank you for coming back to give us your scoop and your thoughts and impressions and your loves and hatreds on Cobra Kai season 3. We had, how long was it, Josh? Like 2.5 years, it felt like.
Yeah, it was. No, yeah, it was at least the beginning of 2019 when it had to have been the beginning of 2019 when it came out.
Well, wasn't the plan originally to release it earlier, and then the whole fiasco happened with Netflix, and they decided to sell YouTube?
Yeah, they were negotiations. Anyway, a lot of drama, a lot of waiting, but with one of the most incredible cliffhangers I've ever seen in a show, at least emotionally invested situations and characters. Holy cow, that was a long time to wait, but oh my gosh, it paid off. And we're gonna go into just a really quick reflect our emotions watching this show. No, quick reactions and just recommendations. If we encourage everyone to go take the time to spend 3 or 4 hours to watch it.
Oh no, it's more like 5.5.
About 5.5.
Episode, each episode, it's 10 episodes. Each episode, it averages about a half hour. There are some that are like 25 minutes, and there are a couple that are like 30.
The last one's 41. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to go binge it, if you just want to know our thoughts, you can watch this. We're going to get into spoilers in just a minute, but just overall reactions, I'm just going to say, holy cow, this was absolutely worth the wait. And even just the first episode going into this season, I felt so much satisfaction. I felt just a deep continuation of what feelings we felt with the conclusion of the last season. And I think artistically and film, in the filmmaking aspects, with a screenwriting aspect, the characters, the performance, the music, everything tied together to really hang on to those emotions we felt at the end of the last episode going into this season. And it didn't just like suddenly jump into comedy and stuff. There was a really smooth flow of everything that we love about this show, including spoilers we're going to get into with other characters and everything. But I could not possibly recommend this season more. I think this is my favorite season. I really do. And I do know it has my favorite episode, and I'll explain why later.
Wow. No, I disagree with that.
Really?
That's
fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
You go first, Zach. You tell me what you thought.
I'm the guest. You can give your spiel if you want.
Here's what I would say. Okay. So here's how. First of all, let me say this is how I started. I watched it. Okay. It dropped at midnight, and I was fully prepared to just binge all the way through. And then I got 2 episodes in, and I started getting real tired. And I was like, no. I really want to focus on this, and I don't want to be fighting my sleep the whole time I'm watching it. So I decided after the first 2 episodes, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to bed now, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and I'll finish it tomorrow. After 2 episodes, I was really concerned. And I was like, this was like a real emotional roller coaster for me. Because like, I was concerned after 2 episodes because I'm like, this is like insane. Like that's how I felt. Like, here's the thing. I understand that you have to suspend disbelief for movies, right? And so like the 3 original movies, there is some suspension of disbelief in them. Like, for example, in Karate Kid 2, you have to suspend some disbelief to think that this like old man is going to take a kid to Okinawa and then let him like fight to the death for a woman's love. Like, come on, that's a little extreme, like mom might have a problem with that, when she finds out when he gets back. She's probably not going to let him live with them in part 3 when she hears that happened, right? So, but you just disbelieve that. But this one, I was like, okay, there was a straight karate gang war at a high school. You know what I mean? Like, and like parents are not like pulling their kids out of Cobra Kai or like pulling their kids.
Talk about that. I know.
And so anyway, but here's the thing. Each episode progressively got better and better and better and better and better till at the very end, I was like so ready for season 4 to start. Like I'm like, please give me season 4. It's everything that you would want. And like they did it again. My concerns I feel were justified, and there are things we'll talk about when we do the spoilers.
Yeah.
Because like there are some problems in my in my estimation.
I agree. I'm not saying it was perfect.
And so, but like, again, all the callbacks to the original movies were perfectly done. Like, I could not be any more satisfied with how they've tied up some of the things that happen and some of the things that they're foreshadowing. And so, yeah, like, if you're a Cobra Kai fan and you've seen the first 2 seasons, you're going to come away from this one and you're going to be totally satisfied. Do I think it was the best season? No, I don't think it was the best season.
I don't think it was the best season. I'm just saying I liked it the most, and I have reasons why.
Oh, I thought you said earlier this is my favorite season.
And maybe you said best. But for me, I enjoyed watching this in some ways more than I enjoyed the other ones. There were things in the other seasons I was annoyed about that we'll talk about that wasn't effective.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know exactly where you're going with that. Yeah. But the thing is, I felt like this is. How do I put it? Like, it had everything that I ever wanted from the season, and the things that I was like most concerned about, like all the things that they foreshadowed, all the people returning and stuff. I was like, man, how are they going to cram all that into 10 episodes? And they did it really, really well. And my kids, my 7-year-old son, probably shouldn't be watching it. There's a lot of stuff in there that
you're not like. Stuff in this season.
Yeah, there's some serious stuff in there.
Season. No,
but my kids actually sat down and binged the entire thing with me. They watched the entire thing straight through, and they were just like, every episode. We took one break to go to the bathroom the entire time. Wow. Everybody was like, at the end of the next episode, they're like, let's go to the next one. They all wanted to see what happened. So it's worth it.
There's a testimony. Okay, Zach, real quick, spoilers. Before we get to spoilers, what's your overall thoughts?
I actually think it's the worst of the 3 seasons. but considering how much I like the other 2, that's not saying that it's bad. But where I'm coming from is just this. I don't think it's really a spoiler to say this. This is not a full story arc. This is a setup for the next story arc. And so I feel like there's a conclusion to the season, but I feel like a lot of the stories are just sort of, there's way too many stories going on, and it feels like they're bringing it in, but we'll have to see what they do with the next season. But I just felt it was kind of all over the place. In fact, so all over the place, they ignore characters for episodes because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Or they'll cut out of an important conversation or scene to go hang out with Daniel for like a long time and then come back to like the next sentence of this other conversation that was going on, stuff like that.
Some of it was handled well, but some of it I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much happening. And I don't think it got off the rails completely, but I feel like it was falling off the rail and then sort of came back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
That was one of the things that I was like, I had concerns about in season 2, was that I felt like the first 3 or 4 episodes was just like catching up with everybody, you know, and then like all these different people and all these different things going on, you know, it characters that were very like ancillary characters in the first season became more important. And then and now in season 3, you get more of that because now there's 3, you know, spoiler, there's more karate dojos now, you know, and it's just like there's more people, and it's just it gets it can get a little jumbled. I don't think it was necessarily close to, in my opinion, I didn't think it was necessarily close to falling off the rails, but it was a lot to follow, and there were some things where I was just like, man, like this is like we are going this. It almost got comic booky, like to the point where it's like this could not in any reality actually happen. You know what I mean? Like
it was very
the first season I was like, I can see how this could happen. Mm-hmm. You know, but the thing is I also think that there were points in the story where the creators had like put in little things, like little nods to say like, we know this is ridiculous.
Right.
You know, like Amanda LaRusso up until a situation that happens is that person who's always like,
or in karate dojos.
Yes.
Or in karate dojos, yeah. You know, like all these different things. And then the councilwoman, and was also just, I don't understand the Valley's I don't understand the Valley's fascination with karate.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
so. But yeah, it just got it's getting like to the point where I'm like, man.
Like, I'm like, where do you go from here? What are they going to do next time? Is someone going to actually die?
Yeah.
Like, is that what they're going to have to do? Someone murder someone else? Like,
yeah, no, it got. But I would also say that some of those things that seemed rather unbelievable had some serious emotional attachment.
yes.
to
Well,
it,
and I think we do need to talk about that because there are some cool things that they address in here too. But what I will say to your comment earlier, Josh, is at least there were consequences to what happened from last season. It wasn't like they just brushed over it.
Yes.
And I do agree with you. They probably would have done more, but I mean, there was impact to multiple characters and multiple parts of their lives.
Yes.
That's
what I like.
What
that's
happened.
what I was saying. That's why I felt like the tone was carried over, and there were resolutions and things that were identified that the audience was talking about. Like, how is this possible? Where are the teachers? Where were there was no security, no whatever. Like, how did everything happen in season 2? I think then they mentioned some.
They addressed most of it. Yeah. I agree that I think it would have been worse. I think there should have been more people, but at least they did have some of it. I thought they were going to go too little. I thought they were going to be all like, oh, someone got expelled and now back to school. But no, they really made it a part of the story.
Right. And that's something also I love the kind of topsy-turvy yin-yang world that we have compared to the original movies, because now, you know, I love when I see like Daniel kind of being in the spot that his rivals were once in and having to feel that, you know what I mean? Like kind of getting a point where there's some sympathy there, you know? Also, I you know, this isn't so much a spoiler, but you get to learn a lot more about John Kreese and like where he comes from. And I loved that stuff. I thought all of that was like really well done. I also really liked, there are points in the story where you think something is happening and then it doesn't happen and then it happens later. But like I'm so excited for it to happen and then it doesn't happen, you're like, you jerks, you know, like,
Tease quite a bit.
Yeah, lots of teases, and it all played out so well.
Yeah,
so.
I just want to say with what you were talking about, Zach, and both of you were saying this, I think the overall story, like you said, it went into a launch into what's going to come in the future season or seasons. But I felt like things did get a little messy with a lot of characters, but I think the individual characters did have full arcs, at least getting to a good placement where there's not a lot of confusion and there's, you know, trajectories that we need to resolve.
That's right.
Next season. The characters had a lot of resolutions and we put everyone where we need them, but the overall story is what's going on. And so
they did set up their arcs, or they did follow through on arcs for characters, which was good. I don't agree, or I don't think that they did them all amazingly. No, but they did do them. They're there. They do have character arcs, which is good.
But at least it's not, you know, there's not too many threads. It's just like spreading out. They did hone it back a little bit.
I did also like, I would recommend to anybody who's going to watch the season who hasn't already, who for some reason is watching this review, I would really recommend the day before, the night on New Year's Eve, thanks to my 2 youngest kids, we decided to watch Karate Kid 2 and 3 before it came out, and you definitely should do that. Yeah. If you haven't watched it in a long time, you definitely should do that, because that made the experience so much better for my kids. I probably could have caught most of it because I've watched them all 100,000 times in my lifetime. But for people who aren't like Karate Kid nerd super fans, like you definitely should revisit those if you haven't already, because there are some things in there that really, like, it hit home so much better for my kids when they saw things that happened that are callbacks. There's so many callbacks to 2 and 3 in this movie, or in this season, than even the first movie. So
and we're gonna do a breakdown like we have the other 2 seasons on the show. We're gonna go through and talk about each pair of it. We'll do an episode discussion on each pair of episodes. So we'll do an episode for 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and so on. This is just gonna be our overall for the series itself. the season itself. And so it sounds like everyone has a resounding yes, go and watch it. And some of us were very, very pleased, like me. Some of us were right there in the middle enjoying it, like Josh, and some of them enjoyed it, but it just wasn't their favorite, like Zach. Does that sound good? I think that's the entire audience.
I still highly recommend, though. Like, I still think it was good. Yeah.
All right,
and
so
that's really important too. It's like I almost think I do believe I do fall on Zach's camp more than yours, and that I think this was probably my least favorite season. See, I don't know, because there are episodes in this season that are my favorite episodes.
There's great moments.
But like, if I'm looking at a season as a whole, like, I don't know that this one was my favorite, but I will watch it. It's probably like Karate or like Rocky 5 to me. Like, it's not my favorite, but I still love it. You know what I mean? And so,
you know what I think it is? I think, and this is the last thing we'll say before we go on into spoilers. I think it's that the other two really felt like you're flipping through like a comic, and there's a little adventure, a little chapter. Here's a chapter. Here's a chapter. Here's about this character. Here's about this character. This season felt like an ongoing drama that all of it kind of tethered together, where things were set up, and it wasn't like this episode's about getting into a fight in the cafeteria. Like, a lot of things kind of blended into a lot of conversations and things that were stretched out and themes. It kind of felt like watching all the Marvel movies. There's like, here's an adventure, and then watching like Endgame. This season felt more like an Endgame, with a lot of heavy tone, a lot of great moments, a lot of the same fun fighting and everything, great music, but it was a very different flavor than what we've been used to.
I think they did tie it together really well. I think one good example, even of just the editing and planning out how they want to do this, is there's a moment where Kreese has a guy with a cigar cutter, and he's about to cut off his finger. And then it cuts to a hot dog wiener being sliced off. Yeah. and you just cringe, and it's like, yeah, I think they actually had this planned out pretty well, but they knew the moments that were going to happen, and the stories they planned to tie together. But.
Well, and I think you should also take into account, like, if you're the creators, you've got a lot more latitude right now, because the first two seasons were on YouTube Red and YouTube Premium, where they probably didn't have any idea what the long-term could be for this series. Now they've got, from what we've heard, Ralph Macchio signed on for 6 seasons. So it's like, if that's the case, they've already been developing season 4. So they have so much more latitude. They don't have to wrap up a story in a season, because they know they've got more coming.
Right.
So in some ways, I think that's a little more satisfying, and a little more exciting, because this season didn't go any way the way I thought it was going to go. And I think it was a good thing, because I was really concerned about some of the things that we talked about, in our predictions, Tim, when we watched the last thing. We're like, oh man, so what? Like, Johnny and Daniel are suddenly just going to become buddies, and like that's not the case. That's not what happened.
Right. Let's go ahead and dive into spoilers. So everyone, if you haven't seen it, go see it if you want to have it spoiled. And I wouldn't recommend watching the conversation about it without enjoying it, or watching it fresh, because there's a lot of really powerful stuff that hits, even if some of it you can see coming, but it's just still the way it's executed is brilliant. But let's just start. You were talking about Johnny and Daniel. I just want to kind of talk about just some of the characters, just generally. We're going to leave a lot of specifics for the individual breakdowns of the episodes, but just overall kind of themes and story arcs and things that we enjoyed about their performances and everything. But Johnny and Daniel, I got to say, this season, we all know how grateful, or how much I love the enthusiasm I have for Daniel's character, and how much passion I have for his.
Your irrational hatred of Daniel. I want to hear how much you hate him or not.
I liked him so much more in this season, but mostly, and again, this
that's because he got humbled drastically, right?
Correct. That's part of it. He really did. And also, he was off doing his own thing for quite a portion of that Okinawa stuff. He was there. He wasn't in Okinawa, but he was doing his own thing for quite a while. But the thing that made a difference was you could see, like, and Ralph Macchio pulled this off brilliantly. I've never criticized Ralph Macchio's performance. It's just the character. But from even setting up, the PTSD that Sam was going through, which we got to talk about, I love that. but he knew things were heavy. He has everything was falling apart, and he's at that conversation where he's at the table and she's like, "We gotta sell," and he stood up and talked about why he sold cars in the first place. All that stuff was setting him for why he went to Okinawa or went to Japan. It was Japan, yeah, and then why he stopped in Okinawa when he runs into Kumiko. All that stuff is all there, and when he has that conversation with Miyagi, just all the drama, which has been 4 episodes leading into that, it all pays off in that one. I cried. I got emotional when she was reading that letter.
Oh, then you know Tim loved it because he cried.
I cry, but
he loves it. Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, that stuff all carried, that tone all built up, and when that scene with him was just so amazing, and I could not have been more. I love Komiko. I agree with you, Josh. She is the one. I'm just staring at her. I'm like, how are you such an incredible character and performance? A beautiful woman, beautiful character, wonderful story with what happens. And it's just like, Daniel, you're an idiot. There's no reason you should have let her out of your life.
That one line she throws out when she says, he's like, how come you haven't ever found anyone? Yeah. And she's like, no one's ever fought a death match in my honor or whatever.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're an idiot. There's no better story than there's the second movie. That's the most wonderful romance.
So and think about that, right? Like, think about how cool of a kind of a subliminal callback to part 2 that was, because Yukie never married because she never found anybody you could assume as good as Miyagi, right?
Daniel.
And
he's
talking about
UK.
So now we have Kumiko, and granted, Kumiko seemed more like I never married, kind of like, I'm an independent woman and I didn't necessarily need somebody. I had other interests, things I wanted to do. I got to travel. I got to do all my dancing.
Now,
but at the same time,
in the movie, though, if you think of that, which I never thought about until you said that, in the second movie or in the third movie, he comes out and says she had to pursue her dream. Her dream was always more important. That's what you're saying.
Right, but what I'm saying is that, like, she never married either, and her response was, there was nobody else who ever fought, to the death in my honor, which, so she never married because she never really found anybody who was as good as Daniel, and Daniel is now married, Miyagi got married later, and his wife passed away while he was in the war, and so, And also, that was the thing. I think that the reason why I loved the season so much, and some of my favorite moments were, like, Daniel's story arc here, I felt was more tying up, like, loose ends with all of these open things that never got resolved. So he never really got resolved with Kumiko.
No.
Never really resolved anything with Chosen. Those both got tied up. And like the stuff with Chosen, like, seriously, the stuff with Chosen, I couldn't even have thought of anything better. That was the perfect ending.
Let's come back to Chosen. But what did you think about with Daniel and Allie, with Allie's returns?
I loved that, and I'll tell you why I love that. Okay, so I love that Allie and Johnny met up. And I love that it happened right after Johnny hooked up with Miguel's mom.
Did that, like, were you like, oh, F?
Yeah, the pit in my stomach as soon as that happened. And that's what's so great about this, is that, like, I am so invested in these characters.
Since the whole time I was like, Carmen better not see him. Carmen better not see him. Better not see him. Is she at the restaurant? Are they by her hospital? Don't mess this up.
When they went to golf and stuff, I was for sure that Miguel was going to see him.
Man, I thought that too. I thought, is that where Miguel and Sam are going? Is that what they're going to do? Oh, no.
Didn't she say, I'm going to go to work and we'll talk about this after work tonight?
But she has to work really late, she said. So, yeah,
And he was out with Allie. I was like, I don't know. I thought that's what was going to happen. He was going to stand her up and then... Anyway,
but here's the thing that I liked about I'll throw a couple of things that I really liked about that whole interaction, the whole 2 episodes where she was involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that at the end of the interaction with Johnny, she's like, I'm always going to be here. And they had a moment where they almost kissed. So that tells me that it's at some point down the road, if I feel like they're setting up a little bit of a love triangle there. She's home, she's around, she's getting divorced, okay? and he's got this thing going on with Carmen. If there's trouble in paradise and he starts running into Allie, that's going to be an issue. So I can see where they're going with that, where Allie's not necessarily out of the picture. I expect we see her in season 4, you know? But I also loved that the first moment that Johnny sees her with Daniel is when he walks in to the same party at the same country club
Wearing a
that
white
Daniel
coat.
caught her with Johnny, and he's wearing white. And then you see in the episode that he nearly gets knocked over
That
by
was such a subtle moment.
Yeah. I was like, man, that is so great. That is just a perfect example of the little details that the creators have done to call back to the originals. And I love how Johnny was like, hey, I'm wearing white. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You must have me over. I mean, I love that whole.
But you know what works the most about that scene is they didn't actually have to stop and show you a clip of the spaghetti.
They didn't do their
on
flashback thing that they do so much now.
Oh, I hate it. I complained about that since the very beginning. No one watching this show, I mean, let it be layered. If someone doesn't catch the spaghetti, let them discover it. You don't have to show. I mean, they didn't, but I mean,
leave it on YouTube. There were other moments.
Obvious stuff. They show every one of those obvious things. You don't have to show that. Oh, when he has Chose, he's like, he does the honk thing.
Right?
Oh, you don't need to show that. We know that. Anyway.
So, oh man, first of all, I think all of us knew that was coming when he had him. But you know what? But here's the thing though. Did you catch when he had him and he said, I've waited a long time for this? That's the exact same thing that Sato said to Miyagi.
Yeah.
When he agreed to fight him, he's like, I waited a long time for this. And then he did the same thing that Daniel was going to do to him. And when he honked his nose and started laughing, I was like, he's like, you should have seen your face. I was like, this guy is fantastic. I was man.
Let's talk about Chosen. But first, I just want to say one thing before we move on from Allie, which is I agree with you. It was great. The only thing I didn't like, and it sounds like you like that they sort of left it open-ended, but I wish Johnny had been the one to say, yes, I have a girlfriend, but it was good to see you. Instead of her sort of saying, oh, I found out you have a girlfriend, so I'll let you stay with her instead of stealing you away.
I didn't read it like he was hiding it. He was just avoiding the topic because he's still trying to sort things out. But what I got out of that is that as soon as he left Allie, it wasn't because, well, Allie is gone, so I guess I'm going to go back to Carmen. The conversation with Allie and everything that happened that night made him realize that he loved. That's what he said, love. He ran back. He said, I love you, Carmen. That's what he wanted to go back and express that. He made the decision, and it wasn't out of like one of the options slithered away, you know?
I don't think that's what happened, but she was the one who brought it up and said, you should go do your thing. I just would have rather he said it.
Yeah, but you know what, though? The thing is, though, is that is very much Johnny-esque for his life. You know what I mean? Like, his life is always a situation where he gets himself into bad circumstances.
Well, that's
just
true.
By not. And so...
And who knows how long Carmen's gonna last? I mean, he's used to women being in and out of his life too.
So, but anyway, going back to Daniel and Allie, I really liked two things about that. I loved that Allie shedded more light on their split.
Yeah.
And it goes back to Daniel being a little hot-headed and paranoid when it comes to Allie. She starts talking to some rich guy from UCLA. He gets all mad.
Yep.
And then I love that she's like, I bet you told him that I was the one who wrecked your car, right? I told you the brakes were bad on that.
The brakes and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and so I loved that. And I also loved how Johnny apologized to her, and it looked like Daniel was kind of going to try to apologize to her too. And she kind of said, I'll always remember it as there were more good times than bad.
Yeah.
You know, and like, that was the perfect way for them to kind of be like, Daniel's going to step out of the way, you know, on this because he's married and has a great wife.
Yeah.
You know, all that.
No closure. You said closure.
Yeah. But now there's closure there with Allie. Because that's the thing about Daniel is all of his love interests, there's never really any closure, you know? And so...
they're still not with Kumiko to some extent. I mean, it didn't sound like they were getting together, but they weren't like, I'll never date you. I'm pretty sure that he'll go back there if anything happened with Amanda.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like, and that was, by the way, I know we're kind of jumping around, but I just absolutely love and hate the way they brought back the girl who he saved in part 2.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I loved that they brought her back. I love that they brought her back, but I really didn't like that she was the vice president of international sales for the very company that he needs to work with.
Way too coincidental.
I thought she should be working for a competitor.
Right.
And they make a new deal with someone else. Then it wouldn't have been so on the nose. Like,
well, because my first thought when I heard that, and I think I said this out loud, and I was like, so wait, she's the vice president of international sales. He's an international distributor. They've never put 2 and 2 together.
Well, and she didn't bring it up when they were challenging it to begin with.
Right. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, or in the however many years that he's had his dealership, he never was like, oh, hey, that's the chick I saved in Okinawa from a whatever it was, a typhoon or whatever, you know, like.
It was too much. I thought it was cute that they brought her back. It wasn't necessary. It didn't. And they didn't have to show the clips. If all he had to do is she had to say the whatever lines that she said about you saved me once, I'm gonna save your business, whatever. That little line. That's all we needed. And like, and we can let us figure it out and piece it together and be excited and like.
Well, I thought of the scene when I was all like, oh, she's like, I'm the little girl you saved, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know who that is.
Yeah, I was all
like, you remember me, and she was surprised. She's like, how could I forget you?
But understand, Tim, like, just like Bo said when we talked to him, most of the people that like are doing these YouTube shows and stuff are people who weren't even alive when the original trilogy came out. So like there's a whole new generation of people who love this Cobra Kai stuff that has never seen the original 3 or at least not in great detail. So I
just think it's insulting to the audience. Let them discover it or enjoy it.
Insulting to us, the people who've been with the franchise for 40 years or 35 years. Yeah.
No. It's just to any audience. I see this stuff on like Disney shows like Fuller House and Girl Meets World. They show clips of the original show, like trying to show the ties. Like, let us figure that out. Like when you watch Endgame, they didn't have to point out they didn't have to show a cut of Tony Stark eating a cheeseburger when his daughter mentions cheeseburgers and how impactful that moment was and emotional it was that she said, and then Happy goes, I'm gonna get you all the cheeseburgers you want. The audience who cares and invested, they're rewarded for that insight. If someone's just a casual observer, don't scoop it out and say cheeseburgers was what happened. Like, it slows down the pacing. And it's stupid to do that. I just think it's a treasure. Let it be a treasure and let it be a reward for the people. I'm not saying us fans our age. Anyone that watches the movies and picks it up. It should be subtle. It's beautiful. It's art that way.
Well, I think there are a lot of subtle ones.
I think the ones I liked is when. There are ones I didn't like, but the ones I liked were when Daniel would be talking and then it would switch to Miyagi continuing or saying the exact same line, and then it would come back to Daniel. Because then it's not so much like, hey, remember this? It's more like, you know, he's passing on the same teachings that he received, and it's more a memory moment.
And that's okay, because that's like hearing someone kind of recite like scripture. What's scripture to them? Something they're really honed in. But when it shows Kreese recruiting kids and he's using the exact same word for word dialogue that the guy in the army in Vietnam was telling him, and I was like, how you can't? He's not going to remember that exact verbiage and recite it.
Oh, he absolutely
did that several times.
He absolutely is. They did it
way too many times. I was like,
that speech that he got changed him and turned him into who he was. That turned him into the Cobra Kai sensei. Look, you know the one thing, that's another thing. So what I really liked about Kreese's for flashbacks, I guess you would say.
I enjoyed them.
I enjoyed them too, but you saw how he turned karate into Cobra Kai, because when he clearly knew karate before he went, because he uses it when he was in the restaurant.
That's right.
Like, you know, and the thing is he even says to his army guy, like, what if they surrender? You know, like, and it's not until he gets in there and gets poisoned by this crazy army soldier, you know, his captain, his general, and he learns the lessons that the general has by actually beating up the general, you know, like, or the captain or whatever you want to call him. you see how he, because you always wonder, it's like, well, how is it that Cobra Kai is so different than
why is Kreese so hard?
Miyagi-Do?
It's not just he's a lunatic.
Yeah, and so I thought that was
It was really well done. I
done.
like the stuff with Kreese. Like I said, just the flashback stuff was on the nose.
The other thing I liked about, we're talking about the karate stuff, is I loved the additional learning of the offensive moves of
Miyagi-Do.
Because
they're
now
offensively defensive, and isn't that just perfect?
but I love how like the response, right? His response is, if your enemy insists on war, eliminate his ability to wage it, right? And like, but it's offensive, and so you're kind of starting to see like the midpoint between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. The Miyagi-Do is actually more like Cobra Kai than we once learned.
Well, that's the thing. There is nothing wrong with what Cobra Kai is teaching if you're in a life and death situation or you're in war. There is nothing wrong with what they're teaching. No. Literally nothing. The problem is when you start doing it in your everyday life
with your high school kid to the extremes that they
exactly. But he brings that up. Chosen said they would be attacked and they had to defend themselves in the village. They couldn't be defensive the whole time. They actually had to stop the people coming in and attacking.
So the other thing, before we move on from Chosen, because I want to talk about another character that I thought had a really amazing story, but I didn't like how it ended. I love the line, if you notice. So Chosen keeps telling me, he's like, you're a foreigner, you can't just take all our artifacts, and all that stuff. And then he finally gives him, and I don't know which one he gave him. I don't think
it was the secret scroll that he wasn't allowed to see, because I think he's gonna open that up in later season.
Maybe. Okay, but I love. You saw Chosen hand it to him and said, "You keep for your collection," which is the exact same thing he said to Kumiko when she threw the thing at his shirt, and he pulled the shirt up and said, "You keep for your collection. I know you like it."
That's one I didn't catch.
You didn't catch that?
Cool. I didn't catch that
out
one.
loud at that. Yeah.
Yeah. When he said that, I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome!" Then they pulled that up.
I really liked how he played what happened with the character. I like how humbled he was, and I like how you picked up this emotional and honor debt that he owed Daniel. That when Kumiko invited him in, that whole scene in the cafe where he was like, "I'm gonna get another drink," and he's like, "No, I get," and he was like really firm and assertive about it. And then he goes to get it, and even though he's like, "You want a drink?" He's like, "I don't drink, but I'm gonna get your drink," and I'm still kind of pissed off.
It's amusing he's serving him that whole time. He takes him on the tour. He takes him around to see places. He's opening his eyes about Miyagi-Do. He's teaching him new stuff, all being a jerk.
Yes.
But he's still serving him.
So, because he feels that debt. And I love the line. Daniel says he says, "For whatever it's worth, I forgive you," or whatever. Or I'm sorry, whatever he said.
Yeah, no, he said that.
He says it means
it's
a lot.
Worth a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it means everything. I love their ending of that.
I loved the whole the ending of them. Like I loved the whole story of Sato apparently after Daniel left, going and finding Chosen, trying to bring him back, because that just makes so much sense with everything they know with Miyagi-Do, and Chosen carrying a lot of shame because of that. I kind of looked at it, that whole interaction at the beginning, I thought that awkward beginning was so hilarious.
It was perfect.
I felt that was.
I was like, that's awesome.
I almost felt like that was like Chosen not really knowing what to say. I mean, the last time Chosen had seen him, Chosen tried to kill him, and he tried to kill him multiple times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Over the course of the month or whatever he was there.
Yeah.
But I loved the way it ended. I thought that, them basically becoming friends was so perfect. That was so perfect to me. And
I have a question about this relationship. Did Miyagi not teach him those moves on purpose? What? Because they actually ask it in character. Like the two characters talk about that, when they're sparring, and he's like,
Daniel made the suggestion. He never taught me that, and Chosen says something like, "Well, maybe you just weren't ready." I was talking to my brother about this just about an hour and a half ago, and he was talking. He just watched that episode. I was like, James, why do you watch stuff with completely no context? But he watched the Chosen episode, and what James picked up is that Miyagi was like those lessons are more for those life and death circumstances, and there's not wars, and even wars that we face today aren't hand-to-hand combat like they were. So it's like almost like it's like a non-necessity to teach that part of it. And yeah, there's life and death situations and things that happen dramatically in this season,
right,
and in the show in general. But like, I think that was what his thought was. My thought was just like, he was like Chosen said. Maybe it was something he's like, I'll have to table it for now. You're just not ready for it, because we've discovered that Daniel's still pretty hot-headed. He even said that in his last letter, So I mean,
yeah.
he was like, I can't teach Daniel this stuff because who knows what can happen.
But you think I guess maybe he didn't know if there was anyone else. Maybe he didn't know what happened, because you think he would say, hey, by the way, there's still more for you to learn, but I'm dying.
That's why
I'm sorry or something.
That Chosen has all those artifacts. I think he knew that the knowledge was somewhere safe. And he may have known. Maybe Kumiko or Yukie had told him about how Chosen was doing and what happened. Miyagi may have known without telling Daniel. He needed to figure out that relationship on his own. He may have known that, he's built this dojo. He's teaching classes. Of course, Yukie would have shared that with Miyagi, especially if Sato went to go get him. Sato probably told Miyagi how he was doing. But anyway,
I'm just wondering.
So I was wondering what that. So in part 2. They go into Miyagi-Do, and at Miyagi-Do, he shows them the two big scrolls on the wall, and the one is the first rule of Miyagi-Do karate's for defense only, and then he goes to the second rule, and he says, first rule, learn rule number 1. Daniel was still on rule number 1, because really, if you think about it, I was thinking about this just recently, because we watched Karate Kid 3, and in Karate Kid 3, Daniel asks Miyagi to train him for the All Valley the second time, and he said, if you use karate defense of honor or life, your karate means something. Yeah. If it's defense of plastic metal trophy, then my karate means nothing.
Yeah.
But yet somehow, some way, Daniel's on the board of the All Valley, every year. He's a big sponsor of the All Valley.
To be fair, I mean, he's been heavily criticized in the series for his hypocrisy, right? Right. In the second season, Robbie's all like, I guess there's an exception for us to go after Cobra Kai. And then this season doesn't, Sam brings it up where she's like, are we the bad guys? How come we're the bad guys?
I thought we were the good guys. So let's move on and talk about the kids.
Yeah, so that's the person I want to talk about is Hawk.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that.
Okay, so Hawk, there are some things I really liked about Hawk's character and his progression. And I hated the ending.
I did not believe it. Hated the ending. I hated it. So you're telling me that this kid has been terrorizing Miyagi-Do, worse than anybody. He is the Dutch of the new Cobra Kai. He is crazy. And he broke Dimitri's arm. He stole the Medal of Honor, spray painted the car. He did all that stuff. And then in the middle of breaking into the LaRusso's house with his buddies to beat the crap out of all of these kids at a Christmas party. And he suddenly, for no reason, out of nowhere, decides to beat up his friends. The people he came with. I agree completely.
And everybody's cool with it.
No.
There were little moments when where they introduced the conflict, which I'm like, okay.
Several times. It wasn't just one time. There were multiple times. And the conversations he had with Dimitri were you could tell there was a little bit of conflict there. And there were times where even in season 1, you could see that.
Yeah, you saw that at the party.
I felt like it didn't.
All of a sudden.
I agree. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it did jump all of a sudden, but it didn't come out of nowhere.
That's what I think. It wasn't out of nowhere, but I did think that it happened way too fast. They're like, "Oh crap, we're out of episodes, but we haven't finished his story arc yet." Because something bad needed to happen to him, or something, because it was working out for him. I mean, he broke Dimitri's arm. What happened to him? Nothing. It worked out really well. He got confronted with Kyler and the other bully inside of the dojo, and he got a chance to fight the actor you guys interviewed, right? And he literally beats the crap out of him and gets, he gets revenge. How many people get revenge against their bully? I mean, we're talking like no one ever. He actually gets it, and then Kyler gets put in his place by it. And I'm like, everything's working out for him. Why is he changing? Nothing happened to him to make him need to change.
So you know what? You know who he reminded me of? So I've been saying that he is the he turned from like the Dutch of the series very quickly to the Bobby of the series, because like he seems to be the only one in Cobra Kai this season that starts to realize that things aren't really like the way he wanted it. Because so there were a few things that I really liked about his character. And so you see it in season 2, like in season 2, he goes to that party and him and Dimitri have that moment where Dimitri's like, oh, Doctor Who's a woman now. And he's like kind of going back to his nerdy roots for a second. And then he's like, oh, forget it. I don't want into that nerdy crap or whatever. And so that's kind of the start of it. And then when Kreese brings Kyler and Brooks back in, you could see on his face where he was like, I joined this to defend myself against these people, kind of like not to be these people, you know what I mean? Not to be friends with these people. And that is where I thought he started really kind of changing, like, okay, this Kreese guy doesn't really have my best interest at heart. You know what I mean? But then he got the opportunity to beat up Brooks and show Kyler what was up. And then that kind of fixed that. But then even later, when Kyler beat up his friend and then Kreese kicked his friend out who'd been loyal to Cobra Kai from the beginning, that was another moment, where that happened.
When Miguel was no longer in Cobra Kai, I think he felt like he was going to be the next head guy. And the second Robbie's in there, Kreese like defends Robbie, and he's like, dude, this is my new apprentice, right? It's kind of a Darth Vader Emperor kind of a thing. Really. And so I think he felt dethroned. And you also see where he said he had everything going for him. He lost Moon. And who is Moon now hanging out with? Isn't that Moon hanging out with Demetrius?
No, that's Yasmin, which is so great. But I love that Demetrius. Yeah. The Demetrius
still, like,
Yasmin stuff
lost,
is
great. Ew, yuck. No. Yeah, well, what does he say to her as she walks away? I love that scene.
When they were making out?
Yeah, they're making out and they walk up. She's like, ew, yuck, no, I wouldn't kiss him. What?
Like,
I forgot what she
that was good too. But no, I love the little things there. Also, the moment when he broke Dimitri's arm, he had the conflict there. And that was I think that was probably the most emotional scene.
I thought that should have been the moment he switched. Because he does it, immediate guilt. Like, I would have felt like garbage after doing that.
Tori
didn't care, and I think but I think that should have been the moment where Hawk's like, I can't do that.
So you know what though? I thought about that moment a lot, because like that one really, there were so many emotions to that. There's the emotion of Hawk breaking Dimitri's arm, Dimitri there realizing that they're gonna break their arm.
Oh my gosh.
Sam, who's paralyzed like with fear and is hiding, watching this happen, and she knows it's all her fault. She's the one that tried to get them all to go after the Cobra Kai's in that place, right? Like, all that is her fault that it all happened. But by the way, I still am not a big Sam LaRusso fan. But anyway,
I am.
So yeah, I know you are, because you hate it. You love everything that's dumb. So
I think she was incredible in this series. We'll talk about her.
But anyway,
I'm sorry, Josh. Before you go on, can I just say like how gut wrenching that cry was? The kid that plays Demetrius when his arm broke, like that was one of the most amazing performances in the entire show.
No, it really was.
Oh, it broke my. I couldn't believe it. It broke my heart.
But you know what I thought about that is you got to think about that move that he had him in was the same move that Miguel had Robbie in, and didn't do it. And look what happened to Miguel. So as he's holding him there, and they're saying break the arm, he has a choice, right? And he's already seen what happens if he shows mercy. If he shows mercy, Miguel is paralyzed. You know that
Johnny has at the end with Kreese, and he shows mercy.
Yeah. So it's
the great moment. I think that should have been Hawk's turning point. I think then he goes and not necessarily just goes and joins Miyagi-Do, but I think that's where he goes, holy crap, I am I'm the garbage.
That's
I'm the bully.
Of Anakin in episode 3, he's just staring out over Mustafar in the lava with like tears. But
That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
More. Instead, he was conflicted after it, but was still like,
So that's what I don't understand was that like you're telling me that all these Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang people,
awesome.
You're telling me.
I'm glad they acknowledge that name is terrible.
Yeah.
It's so Johnny though. It is so Johnny.
Yeah, but like the fact that they came together, or that he throws one kick and gives Dimitri a high five and suddenly he's on the good team. Like, I just feel like that was way, way too quick.
That's why I feel like the arm break should have been the moment, and then the rest of the episodes is him trying to to make up with that group, right? And be all like,
was where Johnny had a conversation with them in the hallway, and then it went along with what Miguel was saying was like, Kreese doesn't care, or he doesn't. Sensei Lawrence is one that has got you where you are, and then Lawrence says Kreese doesn't care about you. And then when he finally saw what they had become, that's what turned him. He wasn't going to join Miyagi-Do. He wasn't even necessarily following Sensei Kreese or Lawrence. He just wanted to go be a part of the solution as a part of the problem. I bought it. I thought it was fine. There was a little lead.
You thought that was fine.
It was a jump. I'm not saying that.
As soon as it happened, I said out loud.
No,
all my kids in the room. I was like, "Oh, so we're all okay with Hawk now?"
Yeah,
like,
I said that to my wife. I'm like, that was bull crap. I actually said that. I was like, that's bull crap.
Daniel, no, the way they staged that, Daniel looks at his students, and then it shows him look to the right of the camera, and then it pans over, and then you see them come in. I didn't feel like, and they all went to the people they were comfortable with. They all went to their little.
Well, I guess there's that. Here's the other thing, by the way. I have come to the conclusion. This is totally random, off topic. Sorry, guys, but like I have come to the conclusion that one of the creators is a hardcore professional wrestling fan, because that was what happens in wrestling when a bad guy suddenly becomes a good guy with one punch. It happens, and I'm like, oh, we're all good with this now. And
everyone loves them. Yeah.
And also in that episode, they even bring up, it was actually, this is how much of a nerd I am. They bring up, they're talking about how they're all buddies or whatever. And then all of a sudden he goes, well, the Hart Foundation didn't feel that way about the British Bulldogs at WrestleMania 3. And then I thought, I was like, wait a minute. The Bulldogs, that was a 6-man. How come you didn't talk about Tito Santana? I was like, what's going on? And so anyway.
Way over my head. I don't even remember him.
So anyway, someone on the Cobra Kai writing team is a hardcore pro wrestling fan, and I'm proud of that.
Well, it was the 80s, and pro wrestling was awesome in the 80s and 90s.
Oh,
that was fantastic.
Yeah, Can I just say the last thing about that sequence, that scene was when they both I got emotional right then too, when when Daniel and Johnny bowed to their students. I thought that was amazing. But then they
bow to each other.
Because remember, Johnny has never bowed to Daniel, even in the tournament. He always did a little nod, you know what I mean?
No, he did at the crane kick. But it wasn't like a straight bow. He was like holding like this, and he did like this weird
but that's what I'm saying. He never
wasn't like
meeting the eyes bow. He always did the little whatever.
Yeah.
Barnes was even worse. Barnes was like, you know.
Well, and I think it's out of respect too. I don't think they're all good with each other, but I think there's now an understanding between them, and I appreciate that.
I also loved going back to that episode. I loved that Allie was the one to kind of bring up all the things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
She's like, I think you guys see that you guys are a lot more similar than you are different, and I think you guys see some of yourself in the other person. You don't necessarily like what you see.
Don't like what you see. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I was gonna mention that earlier when you guys were talking about that.
And I love how she's like, there's actually 3 stories. There's your version, there's his version, and then there's the truth.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was so great. I actually kind of smiled a little bit when Johnny, when he said, "Have Merry Christmas, Johnny," and then he's like, "Merry Christmas, Luso. Merry Christmas, Daniel." Yeah. And I was like, okay, like that was a meaningful moment, and so, That's
A
just
lot
so
of those
cool.
Their arc was great. Their arc was great, and it made sense. They still struggled through it to get to understand each other. But if you notice in the second season, a big reason why they didn't get together was mostly misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And assumptions, like Johnny and Kreese are together, and Daniel comes to tell him about Robbie staying at the house, and he's like, "Oh, I thought Kreese was dead. What the crap?"
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna let Robbie get back into Kreese's life." So
Daniel
he doesn't
finds
tell him.
Robbie drunk, or at his Johnny.
Sam drunk.
Johnny finds Robbie at Daniel's house, like all that.
So now they're able. It takes them a bit, but they get on the kind of the same page so that they can respect each other. The misunderstandings are getting cleared up.
Yeah, I was very excited that I thought it was good form, because I think, Tim, you were kind of right in that you said when we watched the trailer, you were like, I don't want this to just be like, oh, now they're together and they're fighting Cobra Kai, and that's not what it was. The whole story arc got them there to the point where they're
and they had to go on separate journeys, and I loved that.
Yeah.
They went on separate journeys. They crossed occasionally, and then it came together at the end.
So talking about characters, I was actually going to say something very similar to what Tim said about Daniel, in that I felt like Johnny was so much more lovable and sympathetic in this season than he was in the previous two. You liked him in this previous two, but he was still kind of a prick. Whereas in this one, it was
Less
all
attitude.
about him. Yeah, there was less attitude. The whole thing with him and Miguel, although I didn't. So that's another suspension of disbelief, and this is just because of what I know about back injuries and surgeries. But it's
I almost texted you, but we were like, "Don't talk about it."
but I was like, I go, wait a minute. Okay, so the beginning of school was like August, mid of August.
Yeah.
They're in like mid-December,
Right,
and
it ends
he's
Christmas.
karateing.
The last episode is December 19th. Now, at least they do address that his kicks are nothing. There's
but the
at
thing is,
least
though,
that.
But okay, a back surgery of that nature, like, first of all, this miracle back surgery they're talking about, it doesn't exist. Second of all, like, a major back surgery where you don't feel your feet, you are not up and walking in 3 months. You're not even out of like necessarily bed yet. You know what I mean? And so I mean, again, you have to suspend some disbelief for all that to happen. But I was like, okay, so at that last episode, first of all, when they straight throw the kid through I'm like, are you kidding me? These kids are so crazy that they are they've broken into the Russo home now, and they are going to destroy everybody and the home. Like, what are they going to do?
The kids aren't even getting. Well, this brings up the same questions at the end of season 2. Like, these kids aren't going to be able to go to the tournament. They're going to be in juvie with everyone else. You can't just destroy people's property, destroy their house, throw them through a window, and the parents aren't going to press charges.
Yeah, they're going to steal a cobra from the zoo. Like, they're going to do all this stuff. And I love how Tori's like talking to Robbie and is like, oh, this isn't going to violate your probation.
Oh, that was bullcrap.
Is.
This doesn't. Yes, going into the zoo doesn't violate your probation. Stealing from the zoo definitely violates your probation.
Stealing an exotic cobra that could kill you with a bite will violate your probation. Yes.
I thought that was going to come into play in the final fight, and I really thought Johnny was going to get stabbed in the back, and that was
with a sigh.
I really thought.
I'm really glad he didn't, because
I am too.
I was sitting there and I was like, John Kreese is really going to stab him with a sigh. Like, are you kidding me? You know,
right. He's actually gonna. That's what I'm saying. Are they just gonna start killing people next season? Because that's almost where they got.
You got to go somewhere.
Well, I like that now Daniel and Johnny are working together. I like that, like, all of the characters you really are sympathetic characters. Like, all the good ones from Cobra Kai are now all together. All the ones that really needed karate are all together.
Well, that's what I even like Tori's arc, because they're making her take a bigger role and a villain. Her arc is to become more villainous. But she's having a tough time, and there's only one sensei that's like, hey, I will help you with your problems, and if you train for me. Like, and he's empowering her, and so she's grown into this greater role as
And
a villain.
that conversation she had with Robbie where she was like, you know what pisses me off? Everyone else had somewhere to go except for me and you. I had to go home and take care of the kid, my family. You were in jail. Everyone else could just move on like nothing happened. We're the ones that have suffered from this. I thought that was really insightful.
Yeah, and also I think that Robbie and Tori are a much better match. I mean, they really.
Oh yeah, they can go be delinquents together.
So Robbie
and
and Tori
lives.
versus Sam and Miguel is perfect.
Can you guys imagine? Are you guys visualizing me jumping up and down on the couch when Miguel and Sam got back?
I know. I gotta tell you though. I do agree. I do think that Miguel is by far the best of the new characters. He really is. And in every season, he's so sympathetic. You pull for him so much.
He's our hero.
Yeah, he really is the hero. Okay. So
before we move on, I just want to say that was my favorite episode because one, you got the reuniting of them. They had the kiss moment, which you remember I said that was like one of my favorite on-screen kisses was their first kiss. Robbie came in. You got to see that turn with his the revelation that things are working out differently. That he's now a punk. He's put in his place. He goes to attack Miguel, who's still like he's still kind of cripply. And then she blocks him and throws him down. I'm like, that's the ultimate friend zone for Robbie. He's like, take a hike, dude. And I can't remember other things that happened in that episode. I'm like, this is everything I love about my characters. It all happened in fruition in this episode. Favorite episode ever.
Okay, so couple of moments where I literally like cheered out loud. Okay, the time when Chosen was gonna chop him in half. I love that.
You cheered at that?
I thought that was great.
That was too predictable. I was like, here
it was totally predictable, but I loved it. When they were at Allie's mom's house and it goes over to Allie, I was like, yes, Allie, she's here. Like that was.
Can I tell you what that was ruined for me? This is what pissed me off. I had 2 episodes left. I had to go. My kids are going out of town. I had to go to my ex's house to get something for I had to take care of my daughter's hamster, right? I was like, I got to go do it now because I know the next 2 episodes are going to be intense because Josh already told me how excited he was going into the last couple episodes. So I said, I'm going to pause it. I went home, came back, my Xbox turned off, turned it back on, turned on Netflix, and you know how it shows the frame of the first part of whatever episode you're on, it showed freaking Allie on the couch. I'm like, that was so bad. And I was like, maybe, and then it cuts and shows her mom coming. I was like, oh, maybe that was whoever this lady is. And then it cuts right to Allie. I'm like, dang, that was ruined. 3 seasons ruined.
I actually sat there and thought to myself as she was in there, I was like, is that Allie's mom? Like 2 seconds before they flashed to her.
Is that the same actress? Did you look?
I didn't look. I don't know. But the other moment that I was like, I out loud was like, yes, was when Kreese made the call clearly to Terry Silver.
And they didn't say the name. I was blown away. It was so good that they didn't. I was like, the whole time I was like, one of those guys has to be Terry.
Yeah.
Well,
you think it's the guy who gets shot.
Well, he's got the long hair and the ponytail, so they did the misdirect.
Jawline and stuff. I was like, I think that's him. And he's the one that stops. And as soon as he gave him a hug, I said, that's him. And then I was blown away that they had the restraint to not actually call him by name or have Johnny look at his tags or something stupid like that. And even when he made the phone call at the end, didn't call it out. That's how you do it subtly. You don't need to show. Even though there was a moment, when was it? Where you heard Terry Silver's, that was at the end before he made the call. You heard the dialogue from him. He said, anytime, anywhere you need me.
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and what I like.
For the rest of your life. That's what he said, for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Talking about the flashback, too, they didn't have that cheesy moment where he's looking at the Cobras and he's all like, I should create a dojo named Cobra Kai. Or
grabs one by the fist and there's your emblem.
Right, or something. Like, they didn't have that. It's just, it was there. They were fighting over a Cobra pit. It meant something to him and what he had to do to survive.
It was almost like a Batman moment where, like, you know how Batman, he's like, why are you Batman? He's like, because it's the only thing that scares me. Like, that was clearly a scary thing for him. And so he's like, what is the scariest thing I could think of? Cobras.
It's iconic.
But they didn't have to have the cheesy line, right? That's what I love. It's that's storytelling, visual storytelling.
Josh, I want to ask you because I can't remember. You're the historian on these movies. what was the dialogue between Terry and Kreese in 3 where they said we created Cobra Kai, or what was that line that one of them said something like that? Or do
I
you
don't think
remember?
there was a specific line where they were talking about creating.
I swore there was a
Cobra
line.
Kai. But there's more of a situation where, you know, Terry Silver essentially bankrolled Cobra Kai, bought all the locations, he was paying him rent.
Right, later, but like earlier when he first went back to the mansion, he said he was done or whatever. He said no.
Yeah, I'm broke. I don't have any students.
I thought there was some kind of line like, "No, we founded Cobra Kai" or something. I thought there was a little more dialogue there.
Well, yeah, there was we found a Cobra Kai, and he's like, forget the money. I didn't do it for the rent. I bought it for you, and all that stuff. But I don't remember there being a specific.
And where he said, "I owe you," where he said, "I owe you."
Oh yeah, no, when they're driving to the airport, and he's sending him to Tahiti. He says to him, he says to him, he goes, how many times did you save my life in Nam? And he was like, I lost count, that type of thing. And so that's where the line comes, Cobra Kai never dies. You never hear Cobra Kai never dies.
Cobra Kai never dies. Anyway, okay, sorry, you were about to say something, Zach? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt.
No, but anyway, that is because I think Terry Silver is such a absolute slime ball. So I'm really looking forward to him coming back.
He's the most over the top, so I don't know what shenanigans he's gonna pull coming in. That's gonna be fantastic.
And also bringing Bobby back. That was great, having him be doing his ministering, and then like the guy.
He's helping him. He's helping with Robbie.
And does sweep. He does the sweep in the middle of the
sermon.
Church. Yeah. I would have been like, I'm going to this church forever. If my pastor did that.
Bishop like just puts an arm on his nail.
Another quick Easter egg that I thought I loved was, so he's talking to Robbie. Kreese is talking to Robbie, and he talks to him about when he realized that Johnny was special, and he talks about his first tournament, and who he talks about him fighting was Vidal. And I don't know if you know who Vidal is, but Vidal in the first in the first movie, the guy in so they have the tournament. There's a semifinal fight. Mm-hmm. Johnny has to fight, and then Daniel has to fight Bobby.
Polynesian guy.
Yeah, the Polynesian guy is Vidal. Vidal, by the way, that guy was like a coordinator of all of the fight scenes in the original movie. But they reference Vidal. They reference him in season 2 as, I mean, he was obviously a big name fighter, and he did lots of crazy cool moves in the semi. So I just thought it was a really cool callback when he's talking about how he lost to Vidal in his first fight, and then in the fight before Daniel, he beat him without losing a single point to Vidal.
Very fancifully.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some of that because I feel like you said this earlier, and I think what you're saying ties into it. These guys do really care about this show. Like the creators really care about it. One of the things I caught on, and I told everyone, you probably should know this before watching it so you can pay attention to it. But I posted on Facebook, but there's this Japanese mythology thing called blue oni, red oni. It's kind of a trope, but the idea is that the blue oni is like the peaceful, collected person, and the red oni is like more chaotic and all over the place. But neither one is good or bad. It's just that's who they are, and they play with that all through this season. And one of the big examples is when you first see Daniel and Chosen together. Daniel's wearing a blue Hawaiian shirt, and Chosen's wearing a red Hawaiian shirt. And Daniel's, Miyagi, he's humbled, he's calm, he's collected, and Chosen is the chaos in that time. He's bringing the chaos into the Blue Oni's life, which is Daniel. And then, he eventually works with him and teaches him a new style, right? Not that they have to be against each other. In the first episode, Daniel's wearing blue and Johnny's wearing red when they go and fight together and go and search for Robbie.
The Tango and Cash stuff.
Yes, the Tango and Cash scene.
I love that fight too, by the way. Yeah.
There's little moments where the kids, like when they play soccer, the kids, all the Cobra Kais wear the red shirts and the kids just have the blue shorts. The courtroom scene. Now there's a couple cool ones in that scene. Not the courtroom, the council, the city council or whatever.
I love that.
So Kreese is wearing a red shirt but a blue jacket, which is almost like he's hiding the chaos because he's trying to look like he's a presentable, good.
Yeah. Like,
Exactly. When he's there, he's in front of him being nice. So he's got a red shirt underneath, but he's wearing the blue jacket over it. And then, what's her name? LaRusso, the mom.
Oh,
She's wearing a red dress, and I'm like, why is she wearing a red dress? Like she's usually the calm one, but actually throughout this season, she is not the calm one. And then she has an in fact, in the scene, I'm like, she's wearing red, and then she has an outburst, and I'm like, well, there you go. There you go. That's exactly it. So I actually think they took this Japanese idea of the red and blue Oni and put it into the series, into their costumes.
Really interesting.
And how the characters are feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
And as you're watching it, you can see it. You see the blues and the reds all over the place. And I think it's particularly interesting because blue and red are not the colors of the dojo.
Yeah.
You know, you got the black and yellow for Cobra Kai and you know, the tree and white for Miyagi-Do.
Yeah.
So
before we wrap up, I just want to talk just a little bit about the ending and with a little bit about Kreese. And now I said, I think in episode 2 or season 2, I said that I thought Kreese's corruption and taking over the dojo was as well executed and subtle as like Palpatine becoming the Emperor through the prequel trilogy. It was that manipulative and that really layered and well done. I didn't realize that they were going to go full on into a Return of the Jedi ending where you have father save his son and all this stuff and the betrayal. It was more like Revenge of the Sith, where he's like going like, no, we have to beat him, and then Robbie's like, no, I need his help. We gotta save it. You know what I mean? And I thought Robbie was going to get stabbed or something, or Johnny was going to get stabbed because Robbie interfered. I thought it was going to be that literal, like Mace Windu get his hand chopped off and then the Emperor killing him. I thought Robbie was going to interfere when Johnny was on top and then get backstabbed by Kreese or something. But a lot of those themes were very familiar. It was very Star Warsy, a lot of that stuff. It was a lot of 90210 kind of stuff with the high school kids, the rest of it. But the ending of that was it was a lot of like dark tone, Return of the Jedi, Emperor Throne Room kind of tone.
So talking about the ending, did anybody else kind of have like a sigh of relief when the kids came and Daniel didn't kill John Kreese? Because I was sitting there and I'm like,
he's gonna do it. He's
kill John Kreese here.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna kill him.
He wasn't gonna honk his nose. That was for sure.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, he was gonna like straight destroy him. And
he got serious in this season.
And he almost could have gotten away with it too. Like John Kreese is a messed up dude. He could have made a self-defense argument.
Yeah.
Especially in this world.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Especially considering that like they really beat up all those kids. I mean,
his house,
his house is destroyed. He could easily have gone in there and been like, I went to him to ask him to stop his kids from just like doing all this to our kids, and then he attacked me. And
he found a fight. He interrupted a fight with him and Johnny. Johnny would have backed his story. It was like, it's like, that'd be a very interesting turn, a dark turn, but yeah.
There's a couple things I really liked about that, especially with the choreography. When Robbie attacks Johnny, it's like nothing for Johnny. Johnny's just, he's just like, I'm just defending because I don't want to hurt this kid. He does accidentally throw him too far when he does a throw, but still, like, he's just like, he's at such a different level, and I appreciate that because they've only been studying martial arts for like a year or whatever.
It's like Vader in Empire Strikes Back fighting Luke. He's like one hand, like, this is
toying with him.
Yeah.
And that was also, I mean, if you think about it, that's just like if Daniel would have tried to fight Kreese. You know what I mean? Like
in this season, I don't know. I think
no. I'm talking about
when he was young,
like when he was a kid.
Yeah.
That's why they had to bring Miyagi in the third movie, right? Miyagi had to show up because Daniel didn't stand a chance.
Oh, and that line I don't remember what he said. It was when Daniel was talking to Kreese. He's like, "Oh, that little man." He's like, "Well, that little man kicked your butt twice or whatever it was."
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
I love that. Anyway, sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Well, the only other part was that the fact that Johnny gets his chance to beat up Kreese gets a chance to recover, and then Daniel jumps in and gets his chance to beat up Kreese. I thought that was so good that they both got their opportunity, and it didn't feel like it was forced or cheese. It was, they both got their opportunity to show that they can beat Kreese now. And to be fair, Kreese is like
old.
Yeah, that was
both
like,
got it.
That is the one thing, again, suspending disbelief. Even just watching him punch the doll, I was like, man, he's old. You know, like he's just so old. And it's like
this way he walks around and stuff. Just watch him in the.
Well, yeah, and you look at these kids, and you're like, you're telling me these kids don't see him for the crazy old war vet man that he is? Like, he does not sound anything less than a crazy old war vet. You know, like, anyway.
Yeah.
But
great series, guys.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still more for us to talk about. We're
gonna go into every episode, but what traditionally, do we have any projections or not projections? What's the word?
Predictions?
Predictions. That's the word. I was thinking theories, but that's not right.
All right. Here's my prediction.
Okay.
My predictions: season 4, Johnny is going to be in a love triangle where he's going back and forth with Allie and Carmen.
You think so?
I do. I think there's going to be a thing there.
Wow.
Because there's clearly
I don't think they can afford her. Do you think they can afford to have her in multiple episodes?
I think so.
Maybe with the Netflix budget now.
Yeah.
She's busy doing The Boys on Amazon.
I think that.
Oh no, she's not.
I think we're finally going to see Terry Silver back. That's obvious. I think we're going to see Hilary Swank at some point in season 4.
That would be kind of cool.
I am so against it, but that's okay.
That's funny.
Cameo, but I don't want her woven into the story.
But here's the other thing I would say too, is I always have concerns every season, and every single season, the writers have done everything perfectly. So if they bring her in, I trust that they would do a great job with it. I just hate it.
Yeah. Zach, what about you? Prediction about Elizabeth Shue or the Hilary Swank.
I haven't even
thought about it.
I don't even know if I have prediction, but I do think. I mean, what's going to happen at the tournament? I think it's going to come down to Miguel and Robbie again. But I just get this feeling that Robbie's going to win, but Miguel, it's going to be because Miguel shows mercy and is a better person.
They'll have to play it a little more interestingly. I think there's going to be some more personal. It's not just mercy like he did in the, he's like, oh, I don't want to succumb to the dark side kind of a mercy. I think it's going to be more, there's going to be some kind of character, relationship, something weighing on that decision if he's going to win or not. I think it's going to be what's the word? Consequences to what happens that he's not going to throw the fight or anything. I think there's going to be some ramifications if you were to win. And I agree. I think Robbie's going to win this time, and that'll set up for a vendetta to come back in season 5.
I guess the other one is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
I said, do you guys think that Mike Barnes shows back up?
Not next season.
Maybe not next season, but I think he will.
Of course. Yeah.
The other one I think is that the scroll, the secret kung fu technique from the scroll will be revealed, and Daniel has to learn a new martial arts technique that he uses for something. But that might be season 5.
I think maybe they'll get into it with Kreese again. Kreese is going to go, or Kreese is going to have some kind of upper hand, or Terry Silver will, or they'll do 2-on-1.
Oh my gosh. Johnny and Daniel versus Kreese and Terry. That's going to be...
Yeah. I wanted to see Daniel and Johnny fight Kreese at the same time, like just Count Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin style. But I think they're going to team up on Daniel, and that scroll's going to have some kind of how to fight multiple opponents or something like that that's going to enable him to defeat, or how to do a pairing or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. What's on the scroll? I agree. Scroll's going to be resolved next one. I don't think Elizabeth Shue is going to come back for some kind of love triangle, because I think her role was to reconnect with Johnny, and she's just separated. I don't think they're going to push too hard on a complicated status on Facebook is going to roll into hooking up with your high school girlfriend. That's too cliche. I think him and Carmen have a more interesting arc together in their story, and I think they have a better chemistry and a better reason that when they bonded, their ups and downs have been just as effective or just as powerful for Johnny as the ups and downs in their history with.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's just too perfect because if he messes it up, not only does he mess it up with Carmen, but he also messes it up with Miguel.
Him hooking up with Allie would be perfect.
It wouldn't be. See, it would have been perfect pre-Carmen, but now it's super complicated because now he really doesn't want to let down Miguel. That's really what it's all about, right? He doesn't want to screw up things with Miguel. If he screws up things with Carmen, he screws up things with Miguel too, right? And it causes a whole bunch. I think it's going to be she may not be in multiple episodes, but I think there will be another Allie episode.
I think she's gone. But I think
there'll be another Allie episode in season 4, and I think that it'll be Johnny and Allie again. She's the shoulder he cries on type of thing.
Because you're right, she did say the line, "If you ever need me, I'll be there for you," and he said, "And I'll be there for you." There will be some follow up with that, some payoff. I agree.
So,
can I just say real quick, as we mentioned that with Miguel, as you mentioned Miguel, the scene where Carmen was crying outside his room was really well done. Miguel saw her crying, or when Johnny tried to go in and help him and he yelled at him, when Miguel freaked out and kicked him out. That was so good. It was so dramatic. And then
we didn't talk about Miguel very much. He's great.
When Kreese came in to help him and Miguel started whining and he goes, "Quiet!" Like he did he snapped at him. And then later on Miguel yelled quiet back at Johnny. Like their relationship was just so it's always been solid, so interesting and fun to watch. But like I just love it's just so much more deep. And I love tone, and the tone just carried this whole season. Just is so thick.
I also loved that whole bit where he's sitting there in his wheelchair and he's got the fishing pole with the swimsuit edition.
Yeah, sports.
And he's like, "You realize I could just look these up on my phone, right?" He's
yeah.
Like, "Babes look way better on the page."
Yeah, that's right.
But I do like how when he took him to the concert, feeling the beat of the music, those little things, like his mindset it was believable in this series. How he did help in that recovery. It would have taken a lot longer to get to where he's doing kicks and walk around. But I thought it was really brilliant how he did it.
I also loved Miguel when he's like talking to him about Facebook, and he's like, "Oh, I mean, the only thing that we could have done worse is if you liked all of her photos."
Yeah.
Oh gosh! And then I like how Johnny's conversation slowly gets smaller. His response to Allie, and Miguel's like, "You can't send that. That's like 80 pages."
Like, what is that? He's like, "I had 30 years to catch up on it." He's like, "How are you? What's going on with you?"
I love how it gets down to not much.
Not much.
No, but I love Johnny's explanation because it's so like out of touch when he's like, "I liked all of her photos, and they have a button for me to do exactly that on Facebook."
Like, I did like her photos. It's so true. He's so pure. He's just such
so funny.
Transparent character.
I did really like Miguel. The first scene you see in the series is him fighting someone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they showing the end of the season, like with him totally recovered? Because he's doing a match, right?
And he's got a guy with a weird gi. It's not just some generic guy. It was a very specific gi.
And I mean, the way I interpreted it at the end is that was him in his mind fighting to get out of the coma, which I thought was a really cool representation of him doing that. And eventually he does, right? He eventually fights him.
And someone says the line, talk to him about things that he likes, things that are important to him or whatever, positive things. And in his mind was this karate. That was his being a warrior and fighting for everything he's gained since the beginning.
I like how they talk about the Dodgers, and I'm all like, who cares about the Dodgers anymore? Karate.
They won the series.
Does Miguel care?
All right.
Anyways,
well, those are our predictions. Fantastic show. If you have any thoughts or anything that we missed that other than specifics that we'll definitely get into, share or put in the comments below, and we will engage because we love talking about this stuff clearly because it's been like, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours? I don't know. Feels like 6 hours. But the show felt like forever. I just kept
much more. There's so much more to talk about. Yeah. We could do this all night.
We
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much more to come, but thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, Zach, thanks for joining us again. You're always pretty busy. Do you have anything you want to plug or mention about things going on with you?
No, this is good fun.
Okay.
I hope I get to talk to you guys about the episode.
Oh, we will. You're very excited about the first few, and I am too, because I think the most touching moments was that letter reading with Kumiko.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't mention Miyagi. Miyagi had a lot of character and a lot of callback, not just from showing clips, but Miyagi had a very big part of the first half of this season. It was really well done. Anyway, all right. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Zach and Josh. You guys are the mans. We'll catch you next time. The men's. We'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema. Go watch Cobra Kai and then join us for our next discussion.